Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm a teacher, tarot and oracle card reader, and I am a singer and guitarist in the band Red Treasure, and I'm located in beautiful North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina, and I am a transformational life coach, and I help people shift away from negative thinking. And I'm in San Diego, California today.
And we want to thank you so much for listening and watching. At this time, we're posting a brand new episode every Monday morning. We really appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast, liking us, following us, subscribing to us, leaving a comment, and writing us a review. All of that helps other people find us. Each week, we start our discussion from a different jumping off point. And this week, like many weeks, the jumping off point came from our friend time before this. And the topics were what perspective can do to help you change your mindset, and also realizing that when you grow and your life expands as a result of the art of allowing, that sometimes we outgrow things and it's okay to let go of them.
Yeah, and I had that experience this week where I upgraded my internet to fiber. It's in San Diego, and thinking, because I've had internet issues with especially noticeable with the podcast and when I'm on other Zoom meetings. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And then we're in friend time and it didn't. There was a little glitch, and I'm like, son of a gun. But was it perspective or eliminating outgrow? I don't know where that one was supposed to go into.
Well, you had mentioned being in your office.
Okay, so that experience happened, and I needed to clear out. Thank you, Collin. A corner of my office for them to get to the spot where they were going to put in the fiber, and so I moved things aside, and I've needed to declutter my office for a while. I did it a few years ago, and it was time. And I did after they left. I spent hours like cleaning and going through things and do I really need this? Do I really want this? And moved out a lot of stuff. And there's still like another half of the room I want to do. And just looking at things and going like, yeah, I haven't touched that in several years. I have a lot of art in here. I have a lot of paints on a shelf and just different things. And I'm just looking like I came across something and it said, eliminate outgrown selves. And I thought, yeah, I'm still a creative person, but I don't use those things anymore. And if and when I choose to paint again, I can go buy new paints. I'll be in a different place and want different colors or new items, whatever it may be. And it's like, yeah, it's time I'm ready to move out those things and let them go. And some of those things someone else can use. But they're no longer serving me, and it's a part of who I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago or what have you. And it was really interesting because there was a part of me that got excited about the shift in my office and what that's about and what that can invite in. And so I can't tell you how many times I walked into my office and just stood at the door and just kind of looked in and just was really happy with what I saw and just creating space and room, and it felt really good.
Yeah, I think for me, using the art of allowing to work with the law of attraction so that more and more stuff that I want to have in my life shows up, the other effect of that is that things I already have in my life become less relevant, and sometimes I don't need them anymore. And yet, sometimes out of that old deprivation mentality that I had before I learned about the law of attraction and the art of allowing, it's like I'm resistant to letting go of that stuff because of thinking like, oh, well, I might still need it, or, I know I haven't done this in forever, but, I think probably I'll do it again sometime, and yeah, for me, in my experience, I've definitely experienced the thing where like that stuff can kind of clog up the pipeline, from my vortex to me a little bit, like it seems like when I look at it after the fact that sometimes holding on to something I didn't need anymore was actually like blocking the thing that I desired from coming in, sometimes. And sometimes letting go of stuff has really opened up a space that needed to be there. so that the new thing that I've desired, can come in. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely important to kind of take stock, for me at least, to take stock of my, my possessions basically, and see like, what do I really need, and what is it time to let go of? And as you say, we live in an abundant universe, so it's like there's a lot of times I'm like, well, I might need this someday, and it's like, man, like you look
Yeah.
at the cost of keeping some sort of object in your home that's taking up space that you probably need for other things for like years and years, on the off chance that you're gonna, 15 years from now, and somebody's gonna, you be hanging out with somebody and going, oh, do you have like a thing that we could use? You'd be like, I do. I've been saving it for 15 years in my closet. It's
I
like, you know what? If
know.
we can reschedule this for tomorrow, I can go to the store, buy one for $12, and then we can do it then. Like,
Or it can come about in any so many other ways. I was just thinking of like
yeah,
garage sales. Like I used to love to go garage sale shopping.
mm,
And I haven't done it in probably like 10 years only because I don't need anything that could
yeah,
possibly be there. But there's so many, or you're talking with someone and then they say, "Oh, well, I have one." There's just so
yeah,
many different ways. Like the universe is really creative and can, when we're in that space, I can attract and allow anything in.
yeah,
So it's interesting that you say that because I had met with some friends yesterday morning and I had these really cool pants on that I love that have little elephants on them,
mm,
and she was commenting on them, and I'm like, yeah. And she goes, oh, I have curtains that have elephants. I go, I love elephants. I go, I used to have these crystal from Prince's house, and they were crystal figurines of elephants. They were beautiful, and I thought, do I still have them? And I'm like, oh no, I gave them away because that was probably the last time I decluttered. It was like there was a time and space I really loved them. I still love them, but I was like,
yeah,
yeah, they don't serve me anymore, and so
yeah,
someone else got them and is enjoying them. But it's I don't need that to hold up my space anymore because it's just not.
yeah.
I'm not loving it. But then there's other times I'm like, did I give that thing away? So sometimes I have to sit with it. Do I really want it? Am I going to want this later? And
Yeah.
sometimes I do hang on to. And others, it's like, no, it's okay to let it go.
I think the other thing, this is a thing where I feel like we throw the human brain under the bus a lot on the show, and I don't mean to do that. Like, I think the brain is amazing and a miracle, and it helps us in so many ways. But it does. We've talked about how, like, there are aspects of the fact of how our brain works that are not particularly helpful to us, especially when we're talking about the art of allowing and the law of attraction. And one of those things is that, like, my brain can conceive of using all these things in the future. Like, it can conceive, if I have a bunch of books I haven't read, which is one of my struggles. I love buying books because I just think, sometimes I get inspired by the the title and what the book. I had a self help book addiction for a long time. Just like, because
I
there's a lot
can't
of
relate at all. I don't understand people like you.
but there's a lot, there's a lot of really brilliant people who write a lot of brilliant books with information that I'm interested in, but I don't know about. So, but like my brain can imagine me having, like sort of hour, hours and hours and hours of free time over the next
Mm,
year or so, to read this
yeah.
book. And that's kind of a problem because like when I'm going to purchase the book, it's like I'm not in a real I'm not in a reality framework of like what my life is really like. It's like I don't,
Yeah.
I do read, but I probably read maybe about a half an hour a day, and some of that is stuff I need to read for other, that
When
comes
you
into
go
my
on
life through email.
holiday, do you read? Because I
What's that?
every time when you go on holiday, do you read? Because I think of you like being in
Yeah,
Palm Springs, lying at the pool, lying in a chase lounge near the pool. Do you read then, or what do you do when you're?
sometimes. I mean, I have ADHD, which has always. Excuse me, I have the hiccups right now for some reason. Um, I have ADHD, which has always made it challenging to read. Like it means that it's hard to read. It feels very challenging to read, period. Um, and anything I do read kind of really has to capture and maintain my attention. It has to be interesting to me for a sustained period
That
of
is why,
time.
because I've known you for years and you've read many books,
Yeah,
and it was mostly because they captured your attention throughout
yeah.
the entire time.
That
Yeah.
that's one weird. I feel like there's a weird aspect to ADHD that actually helps you tremendously with the law of attraction and art of allowing, which is that, I mean, there's an upside and a downside, I guess. But the upside of it is it kind of like you're forced to only do things you like in a weird way, because
That's
it's just
that's
it's just
really
very
beneficial.
difficult. Yeah, it's just very difficult to
Not in our modern world, but in the art of allowing world, it's freaking awesome.
yeah. No, I mean, to a certain extent, I have gratitude for it because of that, because it's kept me. When I tell my whole life story, which is very long and all these different chapters, and living in Ohio, living in New York City, being a musician, being an actor, all these things. Um, if anybody ever gets the full, if everybody can stay awake for the full story, um, people are just kind of amazed of like, how did you? It just sort of sounds like whenever you wanted to do something, you just did it. Like, how did you do that? And I'm
That's
like,
great.
part of the answer to that is ADHD. It's like if things are not interesting, it's very difficult to maintain your attention on something. And I remember when I first started working with my first psychiatrist in New York to try to treat it, they put me on a medication, and it was a way too high. It was a way too high dosage for me. It caused other problems, but it resolved my ADHD completely.
Wow.
And it was only about a few weeks. I want to say it was like 2 or 3 weeks before I had to call the doctor and go, yeah, I'm having these other issues. But it gave me this window that I tend to remember every now. I tend to recall it every now and then, because like I remember I had a corporate day job at the time, and I was required to go to this weekly meeting that had nothing to do with me every week, and it was an hour long. And
Okay.
before the medication, it was just like torture to sit there, and I gave up trying to pay attention. I would be doing other stuff on my computer, but still I had to, if somebody said, hey Collin, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
had to be like, yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm.
And but it was just even with something to distract me, it was torture. And I just remember being on that overly high dose of the ADHD meds, and it was this very strange experience of being able to pay attention the entire time, even though I did not care at all. It
Wow.
was a very weird, like, my caring and my ability to focus was not joined anymore. And I just remember thinking, like, oh, now I know, now I can see, like, if you don't have ADHD, I can see how you could like take a job that you don't like, but that pays your bills, or takes care of your family or pays your mortgage or whatever, and you stay in it for a long time, not because you're you love it and you're passionate about it, but because you don't have anything, you don't have like a loud bell ringing saying, hey, this isn't your passion, this isn't your path, this isn't what you wanted to do when you grew up.
Yeah.
um, so it gave me a window into like the non ADHD mind of like, oh wow, like I could see like if because I think like what I've talked to a lot of people over the years who they have some sort of like awakening, like and it is usually around the midlife timeline, somewhere late 30s, early
Mm.
50s, between there in there, where they kind of wake up to the fact that they've been in a job that they haven't really liked for a long time, and they don't really see a future of them being able to do anything they want to do with that in that field or that company, and they sort of like kind of have this wake up of like, I've always wanted to be a chef, so I got to go to cooking school or whatever, something like that. And to me, for the longest time, that never made any sense. Like, how could you even show up and work like every day,
Yeah.
if you didn't
Yeah.
care? But now I understand. Like, I've been given this sort of gift
Mhm.
that like requires me to be jazzed about my life, because otherwise I'm just like, it's just too hard to stay into it.
Yeah. 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 Something else we were talking about earlier was perspective and about being like single focused and picking one thing. And you're saying, there can be all these wonderful things going on in my life, but then there's this one thing that isn't going so great, and I can just focus on that
Yeah.
and then make myself feel really bad, and then everything else is insignificant because I'm just focused on this one thing. And then I said,
Yeah.
or we can focus on one of those really great things and just focus on that and feel really good And then that one thing that we could have felt bad about actually gets better. I've heard Abraham talk about that when we were focused on one thing that's really going great or
Yeah.
that we really like and enjoy. And then the other thing just kind of naturally takes care of itself. Have you ever had that
Yeah.
happen where you were focused on something and you had a problem and instead you focused on what was going on really good, or and then that other thing kind of took care of itself?
You know, what pops up in my mind is not necessarily. I don't think you even need to do that. I mean, I think that's definitely recommended. Like if you can shift your focus. But what pops into my mind is I had a corporate day job years ago, and someone who was a peer of mine got promoted above me, and really was not properly prepared for a leadership position. And what a lot of people do, this is a whole other topic. I won't dive into it too deep, but like what happens for a lot of people when they get promoted and they don't have any training about what leadership really is they just default to like, it's almost like how sometimes as a parent you're just like, because I'm the mom, that's why. Like you're just like, I'm too tired to come up with good reasons, and they just default to that, and they just become like, because I'm your boss, that's why. And it's not that they're mean people or whatever. It's just they don't know what leadership truly is about, inspiring
Right.
people and working on their behalf so that they have, whatever. So I had a person who really got promoted without proper training and leadership, and they really sort of, from our perspective, the people that reported this person, we were sort of suffering from every sort of character defect they hadn't worked out at that point in their life, and they were being just kind of mean and just barking orders at us, kind of, and not caring if we were overworked or whatever. And I would continually get into arguments with this person, and this person would ask me to do things, and I would feel like it was not fair, or it was too much, or it was requested in a mean spirited way, and I would like fight this person basically. And it would just always, the fighting would never lead to anything good. It would usually make my life more difficult, because this person became, I was increasingly like the problem employee. So I didn't even after a while, I didn't even have the benefit of the doubt starting out conversations with this person. They already thought like, oh, he's going to be a problem. And it was just getting to a point where like I was really dreading going to work every day. And I listened and read some law of attraction stuff, because I was into it at that time. And what basically came out of it for me was just stop putting your attention on this person. Like, just don't. It wasn't even like put your attention on good stuff. It was like, just stop putting your attention on this bad thing.
Yeah, stop giving it airplay.
Yeah. And what I came to was, anytime this person asks me to do something, which they had the right to do, like I reported to them, so they had the right to give me instructions or direction. It felt more like orders, but whatever. Is to just say, yes, I'll do that right away, and end the conversation. Don't. And it was really clear to me. I don't know, when I read the stuff I read and thought about it, it was like, don't use this sort of method to be passive aggressive. Don't be a jerk. Don't ignore this person when they're saying, I need to talk to you, because this is a work environment, and this is my boss, and they have the right to, I've agreed to be in this relationship, And so, but the thing was, it was like, I'm only going to talk to this person when they say they need to talk to me, or I have something that absolutely demands their approval or something like that. And whenever, so there was two rules basically. I'm only going to talk to this person when I absolutely have to. And when I talk to them, I'm going to be super polite and positive, and I'm not going to be a jerk. And the second thing was, if they ask me to do anything, put all my arguments aside and just say, I'll do that right away. And the
That's quite an exercise.
Yeah.
To be able to do those two things, especially after being engaged in a way that was very challenging and difficult, and felt like I had been wronged or what have you.
Yeah.
To just, it sounds to me like you were really ready to just be done with this issue.
Yeah, to a certain extent, it was like banging your head against the wall and just like knowing, well, this isn't going to fix it, like, well, what will fix it? And I had access.
I'm bleeding now. I have a cut. Okay, I'm willing to stop now.
Why isn't this solving the problem? Yeah, I mean, but it was definitely kind of like a good place of desperation, or like everything
Absolutely.
I had tried to do to fix it hadn't worked, so we've got to try something different. And it was just nothing short of a miracle. Like this person stopped, like within a day or so, this person stopped being mean to me. Um, they started to treat me positively after like a week or two. Um,
Wow. Didn't think that was possible, did you?
they recommended me for a promotion like a month after I started doing that,
Whoa.
and then this person got transferred to another city 3 months after,
That's
and I've never
great.
son them again. And it was just
So you
like,
stopped putting fuel on the fire, and so the
yeah,
fire just burnt out.
yeah, yeah. That's the thing, and I have to say full disclosure because I do have like a compartmentalized life where I talk about Dungeons and Dragons here, but I have another life on another channel now. But and I won't go into any details, but there was a situation in the D&D larger world this week, the public D&D world, where something happened. There was a news story, and a lot of us who play D&D and love it got upset. And I was like, number one. Um, I mean, just like in terms of like amount of upsetness, and I really did do the thing you're not supposed to do, which I know from the experience I just told you, which is I just kept getting more and more upset about it. Like there kept being more and more revelations as the news story evolved, and I kept getting more and more upset about it, and posting on Twitter about it, and like reading information about it, and all this stuff. And but I was following this one guy who was streaming on Twitch every night. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I know. Yeah. Um, but I follow. Yeah, we'll wrap up in a moment. Sorry. Um, but I was following this guy on Twitch who was helping people process actually, and he was angry too, but he was really focusing on the positive. He was pivoting to the
Nice.
positive,
Very nice.
and which was good. So I wasn't as negative as I would have been because I was watching this guy, and then his fight. He said his final stream about it was going to be on Friday, and I was like, I don't know how this is going to be the last stream for me because I'm like so angry. And I was watching his stream, and he said, "This is going to be the last time we're going to do this way." He's like, "We all need to move on with our lives. This has been traumatic for a lot of us. It's upset a lot of us. It hurt a lot of people. I'm glad that we were able to pivot and do so much positive. But from this point forward, if we keep focusing on it, we're just going to create more of it. You know, like we're just going to make these people that did the bad thing, like give them more attention. We're going to be more upset. We're going to be triggering ourselves." He's like, "We've got to shut it down." He's like, if something else big happens, he's like, "I'll talk about it as a one-off and then move on to the things." But it's like, I have to get on with my life. I can't make my whole life about this. And we all have to go on with our lives. And I was like, in the moment, I was like, oh shit. Like, I'm not sure I agree with this dude. And then I was like, oh, he's totally right.
Yeah.
Like, this
Could you
is on its
imagine
course.
if
Yeah.
most of us did that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a great example of that is because it was a big deal for a lot of us, and we did have to talk about our feelings about it, and it was good to come together as a community and talk about the not so great feelings, but also what's the good that's coming out of it. I think that was good,
And it,
but we really reached a point of like we have to stop talking about this and move on with the
mm,
good stuff in our lives.
and I think we can talk about this again because I think it's really important.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for. Let me get to my script here. We're so happy that you've joined us today. Please remember, at this time, we are posting a brand new episode every Monday morning, and we truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast, liking us, following us, subscribing to us, leaving a comment, and writing us a review. All of that stuff helps other people find the podcast, and we're very grateful to you for that. All of our social media links and our email address are in the description on the YouTube video down below. And we wish you a happy and abundant week, and we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye.